Let go of all distracting thoughts. Feel your body inwardly. The entire body is harmonized with chi. So now we can go inside and just let's all just sit inside and just notice what's happening in the body. And notice the most intense part and just follow it. One thing that I noticed with all the Qigong and then with every, reading Eckhart Tolle's book and David R. Hawkins and Michael A. Singer, and they have this exact same process to let go of the thoughts and to go in the body and just notice. And one thing that happened was I met Christian Michelson, and a business coach who was using this to help make more money. And he was teaching us and had just this very simple healing technique that's from all these traditions. And he had a certain aspect of it that the other ones, I hadn't heard from the other ones, maybe because I hadn't taken big classes from them or who knows what. But what he found was that if somebody comes up and has a problem, a goal, a thing, they would sit up at the front of the stage and all of us would be in the audience and sometimes on Zoom and stuff later. But they would talk about their problem or their issue or their goal or what's really bugging them or what's really going on in life. And we called it poking the bear. Ming-Tang calls it acceptance. And then he would have us go inside and just feel the feeling. And the thing that he had that I hadn't heard from the other ones was to keep feeling it until it's done, so that it's like no longer you don't notice it anymore. You're not trying to make it go away, but if you hang out with it long enough, it's done. And I like to tell the stories of my boys because one of them, the one that almost drowned a couple times, and then he wouldn't do his swim lessons and he wouldn't put his head under the water. And we were driving an hour away to Vancouver every day in July during the week to go to these amazing swim lessons, and he wouldn't put his head under the water. And so one day I asked him if he wanted to do this process, and we called it the peace process. That's what Christian Michelson called it. And so he said, okay, so we're driving to Vancouver and he's going to get in this pool. And he says, Papa, I hate swimming. And it's like, okay, when you think of swimming and we are driving to the pool now, what's happening in your body? And he felt pain in his chest and his belly, and he followed it and followed it and followed it. And then he didn't feel it. And I said, okay, we're getting closer to Vancouver. You're going to get in the water. You're going to do your swim lesson. What's happening in your body now? I said, oh man, and there was more pain. And he followed it and followed it and followed it and followed it. And we did a few rounds of that. And then we're getting closer to Vancouver. And I said, what's happening now? And he goes, well, I don't feel anything. So he went to the swim lesson and he came back. We were all in the water. It's a giant pool. And so we hadn't been watching what he was up to. But he came back totally head wet and was a big smile. He said, I love the peace process. And he got over that fear of putting his head under the water, and then he learned to swim. And so it's like you couldn't do enough convincing of him that, hey, there's lifeguards, you're safe, you can put your head under the water now. It's like, no, he almost died. It hurt really bad. That kind of pain was like really, really bad. You can't talk somebody out of that. You might be able to take enough time and learn to swim at some point to like push through it. But that fear that has a sensation in the body would still be there. So but once you feel it completely, the actual sensation that, when you almost die like that, you don't want to feel that kind of pain ever again. So you'll wall yourself off and not let yourself feel it. But then that walling it off and not letting yourself feel it shows up as all sorts of other workarounds. It's like in business, in love, in health. It's like you do all sorts of stuff so you never have to feel that. And some big examples are like a woman that came to see me years ago who had neck, head, and back pain. And she had been to many people, and she came from out of state. And so she saw me once a week for 4 weeks. And when I put my hands on it and mapped her, it was grief and sadness and despair. And I could feel stuff. And so I didn't tell her, but we did a different technique from integrative manual therapy to release that. And her headaches and neck pain and back pain went away. And so the next week she asked me, well, what did you do? Like that, what it's like going good now. And I told her, and that's when she told me who had died. Her kids had died. And so that hurts. That's beyond hurt. That's like a spiritual pain. And you can't just say, hey, just relax, get over it, move on. It's like, no, that kind of pain, you protect yourself from it. And so on her last visit, she hadn't had pain for a couple weeks, and she was moving back to their other state. And she told me that she thought the reason she had the car wreck was to come and see me and let this go. And that's the weekend they let the last one's ashes go. So, and then I called her 6 months later to see how you doing, and she was good. And her husband and her were moving to a different country and going to start a different life, and they were good. There's still sadness and stuff. But the thing is, I'm trying to say is that kind of pain, you will protect yourself from it. And it could show up like a car wreck because you'd much rather have a car wreck and headaches than have to feel that. So, but once you feel that, it's a sensation. This is what Christian Michelson was telling us. Once you feel it completely, you don't have to protect yourself from it anymore. So we're going to do this very, very, very simple process. Eckhart Tolle, in the introduction to the Power of Now book, talks about this process because he was getting all these letters back when it was before email, of people that were getting great results with the Power of Now book. And he said, and the remarkable thing is, this one part was the thing that was giving people the biggest results. And it was this process. Let go of your thoughts and notice what's happening in your body and just notice it. And he said the reason he thinks most people won't do it is because it's so simple. And I know when I first heard about it, I thought from Christian Michelson, I'd been doing a small part of it with Qigong, but I just thought, oh, this is too simple. This is like simple. You're just a business coach. What do you know? I'm a healer. It's very complicated, but then I started doing it with him, and I started seeing all sorts of people heal stuff. So we're going to do this process because it's time. So think about what's bugging you, what really, really is the thing. It could be business. It could be the money. It could be the way things that happen with your kids or things that happen with your parents, your life. It could be your health. It could be your love, your significant other, or if you don't even have one. It's like we have all sorts of stuff that we kind of know, like, well, this stuff happened when I was a kid. And it's like, yes. And so we can get a PhD in doing talk therapy and learning all about it. But in my opinion, it doesn't solve it. It just lets you know why you got a problem. But this is a very pure technique. So once you think about, okay, here's what's really hurting. Then we let go of our thoughts and go in the body. And now we're all just going to sit here and notice what's happening in the body. And we'll take one person at a time, like Christian Michelson did, because when we work on one person, then we follow the same prompts of what's happening in your body. Stay out of your thoughts. Stay in your body. Notice if there's any thoughts. You can use your fingers and super lightly touch the skin over the area that has your spot. Or I shouldn't call it your spot, the part that you're noticing. And that way you can follow it. And if it moves a few centimeters, you can move your fingers and notice the most intense part of the most intense part. And in that most intense part, see if there's a way to get even more into the most intense part of it. Like, can you come into it from the front or from the top or from the very center of it? See if you can touch with your intention, with your awareness and your finger, the most intense part. And just notice it. Give it space. Let it be there. You can send it love. You're not trying to fix it or change it or understand it. You're just noticing it. You're just kind of sitting with it. It's kind of like a baby that's crying and it's not hungry and it's not, it doesn't have a diaper problem. It doesn't have a dirty diaper. Maybe it really should be falling asleep, but it won't fall asleep. And it's just crying. And sometimes you just have to sit with it. That's right. Stay out of your thoughts. Stay in your body. Christian Michelson calls it an instant miracle technique. He would take a big breath or a yawn, and he had a class to teach us this thing, which he didn't know what it was or how to do it. He just knew that sometimes he would have a big yawn, a big breath, and I think it's more like it's the effect because as we just kind of hung out with it and did this process, every once in a while there might be a big breath or a big yawn. And I think it's not like causing the instant miracle. I think it's more like a an effect when it comes through. So nothing got to do, but I just made a rule set back then of like, because he was like, well, the only way to learn this instant miracle technique is to come to my class and pay, the $2,000 for a 3-day class. It's like, okay. Um, but because I'm a matrix energetics person, I'm like, well, I can make a different rule than that. So I thought, well, every breath is a miracle. So my rule set I put in place was anyone who interacts with this work gets that instant miracle technique, whatever that is. But really, I think it happens, and then people have an experience of like a big breath or something. Not like we have to go try to make a big breath. Stay out of your thoughts. Stay in your body. Notice the most intense part of the most intense part. So as we do this, when we do it together, we're accessing something that Eckhart Tolle calls the portal to the infinite. Well, Ryan Holiday calls it obstacle is the way. So it's like when we poke the bear and we have this pain, this problem, then we let go and we go inside and we just feel the sensation without the words, without the labels. It might be anxiety, but we go, okay, well, what does it actually feel like? And if we do that, then we have that's the portal to the infinite. So what I invite us to do right now is we'll go one-on-one. I see two hands up, and whoever wants one-on-one time, while I work with one person, we're going to do this real simple process. There's all sorts of stuff we can do. You know, like I can do IMT, and we can do matrix energetics, and we can do all sorts of stuff. Right now, what I'd like to do is test this, like use it. Because I've seen so many miracles with this one part. And then we can let go of whatever this is and let's see what happens in the world. So we'll